Part 1, describing the study. Why is the study being done? The Health Research Board, or HRB, is funding research that examines the experience of patients who have had a stroke recently. We wish to understand how best to plan and organise stroke services to meet the individual needs of people who have a stroke. While we're interested in the whole patient journey from the moment the stroke symptoms started until a person gets home again, in this study we're especially interested in the early or acute phase of stroke by speaking with people who have recently had a stroke or a family member familiar with what happened around the time of the stroke. We may see patterns in their stories that might help us identify areas for improvement in care and services. We want to make every patient's stroke journey better and reduce any potential after effects that a person might have after a stroke. The experiences of people like those of your family member are very valuable to us, and we believe that hearing their story, albeit through a family member, will help us to improve care for other people in future. Who is organising and funding this study? The study is being organised by a team of researchers who work at Beaumont Hospital and at the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland. The study is funded by a grant from the Health Research Board and is part of a postgraduate qualification or PhD for a doctor who works in stroke care in Ireland. Why am I being asked to take part? We are asking you to consider taking part because your family member has recently had a stroke, and so we feel we can learn from the experience of your family member. We wish to include everyone who has had a recent stroke in Beaumont Hospital in the study. The stroke consultant looking after your relative has assessed the ability or capacity of your relative to participate directly and independently, and it's the consultant's assessment that your relative will not be able to participate directly themselves. We want to give all patients experiencing a stroke the opportunity to have their story included, and so we're asking you to consider participating on your relative's behalf. We believe that understanding every individual stroke journey can help us improve how stroke care is organised for everyone who has a stroke in future, and so we want to include your relative so that their story is heard, despite them being unable to participate currently themselves. How will the study be carried out? During your family member's hospital admission, a member of the medical or stroke team will speak to you about the option of taking part in the study on your family member's behalf. If you express an interest in finding out more information about the study, then a member of the research team will explain the study in detail at a time that suits you. There are 2 parts of the study. Firstly, you will be asked to complete a survey with the researcher while you're in the hospital, responding on behalf of your family member as far as it is possible to do so. The second part will happen 3 months later, where some people, though not everyone, who participated in the survey will be invited to take part in an interview about the experience of the person who had a stroke. About 1 in every 5 people who complete the survey will later be invited for an interview. Initially, you'll be given time to think about whether you're interested in participating. The researcher will return, usually the next day after you've had time to think about it and to read this information leaflet, and answer any questions that you may have about the study. If you agree to participate, you'll be asked to sign a proxy assent form to participate in the survey on behalf of your family member. At this time, you'll also be asked if you can be contacted again in 3 months' time to discuss the option of a follow-up interview. If you do decide to participate in the first part of the study, the survey, the researcher will fill in the survey with you. You're under no obligation to participate in any research study. Participating in the survey puts you under no obligation to take part in a later interview, should you be invited to do so. What will happen to me if I agree to take part? So if you agree to participate in the study on behalf of your family member, the researcher will go through each of the questions of the survey with you one by one. The survey will have questions about stroke in general, but also about what happened to your family member from the moment stroke symptoms were noticed to getting help and getting to the hospital for treatment. The researcher will fill in the answers with you. If you can't remember or don't know the details from the time of your family member's stroke, don't worry. That is quite common, and it's still worth completing as many of the survey questions as possible. The survey will take about 20 to 30 minutes and will be filled in at a time that suits you. Ideally, it'll be completed in the presence of your family member and will not interrupt their time with their multidisciplinary team members. Their care will always be the priority. The researcher will also review your family member's medical records on the ward to collect information about their stroke, including the type of stroke, their blood pressure and blood sugar readings at the time of their stroke, and their medical history. They will not be asked to give blood samples or have any new tests. If they attended Beaumont Hospital by ambulance, we will also ask Dublin Fire Brigade or the National Ambulance Service to summarise the times that they recorded for the calls related to their stroke. You can stop participating at any time. The discussion while completing the survey will not be recorded in video or audio format. If recalling or describing the details of your family member's stroke causes you any distress or upset, you can tell the researcher you wish to stop answering the survey questions at any time. You can stop for a break temporarily, or you can withdraw from the study altogether, and this will not impact their medical care, and your distress will be acknowledged and supported. What are the benefits? While your family member may not benefit directly, it is hoped that the results of the study will help people who have a stroke in future to have the fastest possible access to the care that they need. We want to improve how stroke services are planned and organised to make them as fast and efficient as possible for everyone so that people have the best possible outcome after their stroke. What are the risks? The study involves a survey with questions about people's understanding of stroke in general and about your family member's recent experience of stroke, stroke care and stroke services. So questions will refer to what happened around the time of the stroke, when they were first noticed. For some people, this can be distressing to recall. If you experience any distress during or after discussing the questions on the survey, you can speak about this to the research team or to your family member's medical or stroke team. Additionally, the Irish Heart Foundation have a stroke support group who can be contacted by telephone on 016685001 Monday to Friday 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And they can also be contacted by email using the address support@irishheart.ie. Confidentiality is important in research studies, and we try our very best to keep all our conversations confidential. In a hospital, this can be a challenge. All the files and paperwork for this study will be confidential, but it is possible that our conversations could be overheard on the ward, and every effort will be made to make sure confidentiality is maintained at all times, while also giving everyone who wishes to participate the opportunity to do so. What if something goes wrong when I'm taking part in this study? It's very unlikely that anything will go wrong as a result of participating in the study. However, if you feel distress as a result of the survey, you can speak to the researcher or to your family member's stroke team. The contact details of the doctoral researcher are on the last page of this information leaflet. Is the study confidential? All information collected will remain confidential at all times. Yours and your family member's personal details, such as name, age and address, and contact details, such as telephone number and email address, will be coded so that only the research team will be able to determine your identity. We will let your family member's GP know if you participate on their behalf, unless you feel your family member would prefer that your GP is not made aware. Your family member's medical records will remain in the possession of Beaumont Hospital at all times and never removed from the hospital for this study. You have the right to access all information gathered with regard to your contribution, and we hope to publish the results of the study in scientific journals. However, you or your family member will not be identifiable in any publication. We will anonymously acknowledge your help in this study in future publications. What if my relative improves and is well enough to participate themselves? We hope very much that your relative improves and is able to participate and represent themselves in the study, and there's a number of possibilities if this happens. A, your relative will be given the opportunity to see the responses that you gave to the survey and to edit any details if necessary. B, your relative may prefer to answer the survey themselves, and so their responses will be the ones used in the study analysis. C, if your relative is well enough to participate in the interview independently, though is represented by you as their proxy in the survey, they will be interviewed for the study rather than being represented by the proxy again, such as yourself. And D, your relative may alternatively decide to withdraw from the study, and if this is the case, then a discussion can be had about the removal of data from the study, and this is described below in part 2 of this patient information leaflet, point 6 under protecting your data.